league, and the ratings are an embarrassment. They're a statement about how little interest there actually is in women's basketball beyond Caitlin Clark. The fact that they can't reach a CBA agreement and be confident that there's actually going to be a 2026 season of the WNBA because these idiots, Angel Reese and the rest, are like, oh man, if y'all not paying us $1 million, $2 million.
Those viewership figures aren't merely underwhelming. They're a full-blown collapse, and they reveal a truth the WNBA power structure would rather ignore. Strip Caitlin Clark out of the equation, and the audience vanishes. What makes this even more damaging is the irony at the center of it all. The very players who benefited from the surge she created, leveraging her spotlight into higher salaries and expanded attention, are now willing to torch the entire 2026 season. They're pushing toward a labor standoff under the belief that they merit NBA-level compensation, despite performing in buildings that struggle to stay filled and broadcasts that barely register on the ratings scale.
Not good enough. We're not budging. We're not negotiating. The entire season is up for grabs. And here's how they got there. This group of women, delusional, allowed Nafisa Collier, whose husband and her and Breanna Stewart have started a rival league to the WNBA. They've allowed them to be the leaders of their negotiation for a new CBA agreement.
Let's slow this down and really unpack how absurd this situation has become. The league has already put 7-figure contracts on the table. 7 figures to play roughly 40 games in a league that, by its own financial disclosures, has hemorrhaged money for most of its existence. This isn't theoretical profit. This isn't we're close. This is a business that only recently stopped bleeding because one player dragged it into relevance. And the response from the player's side? Not enough. No compromise. No counterbalance. Just hardline demands and a willingness to jeopardize an entire season. Now here's the part most people completely miss. The person steering these negotiations isn't some detached labor expert fighting purely for fairness. It's a leadership group made up of active players whose personal brands, rivalries, and resentments are baked directly into the process. These aren't neutral actors looking at spreadsheets and long-term league health. These are competitors who've spent the last year watching.
For women, delusional, allowed Nafisa Collier, whose husband and her and Breanna Stewart have started a rival league to the WNBA. They've allowed them to be the leaders of their negotiation for a new CBA agreement, collective bargaining agreement in the WNBA. People that have started a competitor to the WNBA are leading the negotiations for a new WNBA contract. This is insanity and retardation that we have never.
Think about what we just heard, because this is where the situation crosses from messy into outright unbelievable. Nafisa Collier, whose husband runs Unrivaled, a direct competitor to the WNBA, is helping lead the collective bargaining negotiations for WNBA players. Right alongside her is her business partner, Breanna Stewart. These aren't passive investors. They literally founded and promoted a rival league that is actively competing for players, attention, and leverage. Now pause on that for a second. This would be like Adam Silver handing LeBron James the keys to negotiate the NBA's next CBA while LeBron is simultaneously launching a competing basketball league and recruiting players to play there. No serious sports league on earth would allow that. Not the NBA. Not the NFL. Not MLB. It wouldn't even be entertained as an option. This isn't just a conflict of interest. It's a structural problem. You have players negotiating the future of the WNBA while their personal financial upside increases if the WNBA becomes unstable, shortened, or weakened. A lockout, delayed season, or chaotic labor fight doesn't hurt Unrivaled. It helps it. Every ounce of uncertainty in the WNBA pushes leverage toward alternative leagues. That's not
He played Nafisa Collier when she was talking tough and everybody's applauding her. You go, girl. Kathy Engelbert, they're not paying you guys what you're worth, and we're not paying Caitlin Clark what she's worth.
It believes it succeeds despite its players, not because of them. I have the privilege of watching my husband run a league where he has to balance 100 different things at once. I won't pretend the job is easy, but even with all of that on his plate, he always takes the time to reach out to players when he sees an injury, whether it's unrivaled or even during the WNBA season. That is what leadership looks like. It's the human element. It's basic integrity, and it's the bare minimum any leader should embody.
Look closely at this footage. Here stands Nafisa Collier at her defining spotlight, an opportunity to justify demands for fresh direction inside the WNBA. Her crushing argument against Commissioner Kathy Engelbert? She fails to personally contact athletes following injuries. That's all. This alleged lapse in stewardship is framed as reason enough to detonate an entire organization. At the same time, Keir's spouse, leading a competition attracting 30,000 spectators during its finale, earns acclaim as innovative simply for sending friendly messages. Such commentary lacks substance. It favors sentiment instead of data, passion above financials, revealing why female athletics repeatedly buckle beneath self-made illusions and misguided narratives.
Built for this type of leadership. It's all feelings over facts. It's there's no logic here. Hey, just pay us what we want. I don't want to hear about paying us what's sustainable. Just pay us what we want. We feel like we're owed this amount of money. And we've convinced America that 23 and 24-year-old women coming out of college, that paying them $70,000, $80,000.
This is the hard truth those athletes urgently need to face. $70,000 for a 4-month season as a first-year professional fresh out of university is not abuse. It is an unfair treatment. It isn't proof of widespread bias for the average degree holder. For many people, that figure would be an ideal entry-level paycheck. And that money comes from playing basketball in a competition that bleeds cash. Stacking it against men's leagues is intentionally deceptive. NBA newcomers earn fortunes because that league pulls in billions. The WNBA does not turn a profit. It survives through full financial support from the NBA. Every paycheck issued is effectively a handout, whether the players accept that reality or not.
You should have been a basketball player. Or these women are great basketball players and they deserve more than that. No, they don't. I went into a profession that at the time, sports journalism, the newspaper industry, that was turning a profit. And they paid me $5 an hour. And I didn't complain. I thanked them. But the Bloomington Herald-Times was turning a profit. The WNBA loses millions of dollars a year. And I got a 4-month job that pays me $75,000. I'm undervalued. I'm underappreciated. I've been mistreated.
Print media was still profitable back when wages sat at $5 per hour. The WNBA hemorrhages cash each year while handing first-year players $75,000 for 4 months of labor, along with lodging, transportation, and benefits. One scenario reflected real worker abuse. The other features athletes persuading themselves that financial losses absorbed for them represent virtue. This is where modern feminist thinking turns truly harmful. The moment you accept that women are owed identical salaries without regard to income produced, audience interest, or elementary financial logic, you sever ties with reality. What remains is decision-making driven by feelings and perceived entitlement. No enduring enterprise can be constructed on such unstable ground.
But she's nuts! And she's surrounded by other nuts that are confirming her nuttiness. She's gonna sit here and preach. And again, I'm not a big defender of Kathy Engelbert because she's a nut too. But sitting there holding a press conference scolding them because your husband is the president of the unrivaled league and he's now smarter than her, and he knows more about what to do than her. Are you kidding me?
She isn't mistaken across the board. Nafisa Collier has real skill, was raised well, and has built a strong professional resume. Yet she's surrounded by voices that reinforce her weakest beliefs rather than confronting them with evidence. As a result, she's now steering labor talks that risk dismantling the very league that allowed her success. The deeper irony is that Commissioner Kathy Engelbert does merit criticism, just not for the reasons Collier suggests. Engelbert's shortcoming isn't a lack of personal check-ins or comforting messages. It's her role in fostering this same detached-from-reality mindset by acting as if the WNBA's economic struggles simply aren't real.
It means just like, I don't really care about Caitlin Clark anymore, because she's halfway crazy for not coming on air somewhere and saying the things that I'm saying. Hey man, y'all crazy. We better take this contract they offered us and be thankful, because it's all, from the private flights to the salaries we're getting paid, it's all charity. It's all welfare. And let's be appreciative. And then once we start making real money, then we'll go for the stupid superstar contracts like the NBA players have. But we're not.
This is where it becomes personal for many fans, including me. Caitlin Clark had a chance this season to be the voice of logic, to openly say what a lot of people are thinking. These demands are unrealistic, the league simply can't afford them, and players should be thankful for the historic investment they're getting. Instead, she stays quiet. She goes along with the chaos. She allows Nafisa Collier and Angel Reese to steer the debate toward disaster, and she says nothing. Eventually, that silence turns into complicity, and it becomes difficult to keep supporting someone who won't stand up for the league that pays her.
Playing off of how, the people within the Wall Street or whatever, they caused the collapse that damaged all of us and cost all of us. It cost me a lot of money. I lost so much money on the house I had in Kansas City. Anyway, but here's Megan Rapinoe in her latest commercial begging for LeBron James to come over and play basketball in the WNBA and for Messi to come play soccer.
Young, you believe that you can do anything. And then the world tries to set limits for you.
Tell you what's allowed.
What's normal.
Who you're supposed to be.
But on the field, the track, the court, here, you get to be exactly who you are.
Because at our core, we're still the kids who just want to play. The go big game changers.
The living, breathing fabric of this country.
Supporting trans youth isn't just about sports.
It's about freedom.
On and off the field. It's more than a
Megan Rapinoe has teamed up with the ACLU to promote the whole transgender deal. And if you listen to that commercial.
Now we're seeing the expected next stage, an ACLU ad featuring Megan Rapinoe promoting transgender participation in women's athletics. The theme is self-identification, the refusal of boundaries, and the idea that you can be whoever you choose, regardless of biology or reality. It's all connected, same worldview. Same dismissal of objective truth in favor of personal emotion, the same demand that reality should reshape itself to fit individual preferences instead of people adjusting to reality. And it leads to the same outcome every time. If you build any institution on the belief that feelings outweigh facts, identity outweighs ability, and ideology outweighs finances, you're building on unstable ground, and eventually the entire thing collapses.
They want to decide things that God has decided. It's not about you. And so if you're a Christian or if you have a brain, you consult the maker, the owner, the creator. You let him define you. But this whole movement is about, I get to define. I'm my own God. Yes, I have a vagina and a clitoris, but I get to decide I should really have a bat and balls, and I'm going to have someone sew one on me so that I can run around and pretend to be a man, or I can run around and pretend to be a woman. And You wonder why things around them are collapsing? They think they're the makers. They think they're the creators. They think they're their own gods. And that's why everything that they build collapses. And that's why women's sports are going to collapse, because the delusion of women, the whole feeling.
What makes this situation so heartbreaking is that the WNBA had a rare chance this season. Caitlin Clark brought a level of attention the league has never seen: record ratings, sold-out arenas, and mainstream media buzz. The league could have used that surge to build a lasting foundation and set itself up for long-term success. Instead, they wasted it. They let envious players target their biggest draw. They allowed racial grievance politics to dominate the story. They let union leaders with clear conflicts of interest sabotage the talks. Now, they face a possible strike that could end the league for good. Because here's what these athletes fail to grasp: fandom in women's basketball is delicate. It isn't deeply rooted like the NBA. It isn't woven into American culture. People watched this year for Caitlin Clark, not for the WNBA as a whole. If there's number 2026 season, those casual viewers won't return. They'll move on, leaving the league with only the small base that existed before Clark arrived. The unrivaled league's ratings show this clearly. 30,000 viewers for a championship game featuring the WNBA's supposed biggest star. That's not an audience. It's a statistical blip. It proves that without the WNBA's platform, these players have almost no market appeal at all, and yet Nafisa Collier, the same player whose husband's league just proved how little interest exists in women's basketball without Caitlin Clark, is the one shaping the WNBA's future. She's demanding pay that would need roughly 10 times the current audience to make sense. She's threatening to cancel an entire season if she doesn't get her way. And some players applaud this as bold leadership. This is what happens when empowerment slogans replace financial understanding. When you convince yourself that asking for more automatically means you deserve more. When you confuse confidence with competence and volume with validity. The $5 per hour comparison wasn't meant to diminish anyone. It was meant to highlight market realities. Newspapers paid low wages but still profited, so those wages could continue even if unfair. The WNBA pays high wages and loses millions, so those salaries can't last even if they feel insufficient. One situation could go on forever. The other is heading toward inevitable collapse. Pointing this out isn't sexism. It's basic economics. It's the same logic you'd use for any company. If costs exceed revenue, you cut expenses, raise income, or shut down. There is no fourth option where you keep losing money because employees feel undervalued. The NBA has supported the WNBA for years out of goodwill and a genuine desire to grow women's basketball, but that support isn't endless. If WNBA players force a stoppage and show that no amount of funding will ever satisfy them, the NBA has every right to walk away and let the league stand alone, which would likely mean it collapses. So here's the question for WNBA players. Is this really the battle you want to fight? Is Nafisa Collier's hurt feelings about phone calls worth risking the entire league? Is Angel Reese's demand for $2 million to play in front of 5,000 fans more important than having a league at all? Because the unrivaled league's ratings already answered that. Without the WNBA, most of these athletes have no platform, no audience, and no leverage. They're not NBA stars who could launch their own league and draw millions of viewers. They're niche athletes in a niche sport that most Americans don't watch or care about. And that's not an insult, it's just reality. A reality that calls for humility, gratitude, and strategic planning instead of entitlement, grievance, and self-sabotage. The WNBA gave these players an opportunity that wouldn't exist in a purely free market. The least they could do is not destroy it. But they won't listen, because listening would mean admitting they're wrong. And admitting they're wrong would mean rejecting the ideology that says they're oppressed victims who deserve everything they demand just because they demand it. So instead, they'll keep pushing, keep threatening, keep letting conflicted leaders steer their negotiations. And when the league collapses, they'll blame everyone but themselves. What do you think? Are WNBA players right to hold out for higher salaries, or are they destroying the league? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit subscribe, and tell me if you think there will even be a WNBA season in 2026.